City Council meeting of September 14, 2015 to order. We would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call shows that all are present on the council and department heads. I'd like to review approval of the minutes for August 24.
Move the minutes. They were very well done.
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead. You second. All right, further. I thought it said something there kind of pertinent. I thought should be there regarding the. Hang on a moment, if you would. I didn't have a pen with me to mark it. Overall, they were good. I'll let it go. It wasn't that big an issue. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the bills.
I'll make the motion, but I've got a number of questions.
All right, we can do that. Get to discussion.
I'll second,
All right.
and I have a comment too, or
Okay,
question.
discussion. Starting off, Glenn had something.
There's, first off, the whole packet, it'd be nice if issues are all stapled together as an issue rather than just 100 loose pages of text in here. But there's, I'd just like to point out this one, the check register. There's no descriptions on any of that stuff, and there's a number of them that didn't spring to mind. You know, some person's name and then a cost assigned to it without any reference as to what it might end up being applied to. Later on in the warrants, I guess it is, those ended up being described properly, but I just wanted to point that part out. Not any particular thing, but it's difficult to make any kind of an assessment without having any understanding of what it's actually representing.
Is this the new program?
Okay, so because we're in the process of converting BS and A, and the check register, what would you like to see added? Because it may be a new field we have to add added to the check
Some type
register.
of descriptor as to what that payment is representing.
Okay,
Like a memo, just a,
okay.
Well, sometimes there's a word or two there, but there's several things attached to it, but you only print so far. So.
Yeah, the first 3 pages, there's nothing, no descriptor at all.
Right.
If you don't take it from whoever it was issued to, you don't have any idea.
Okay, do you have anything else, Glenn?
No, that's all.
All right, Harvey?
I like the new, different format for the revenue report. I think they deleted a couple of columns there that were obsolete anyway, so this is a much better snapshot. But when we go to landscape, I'd like them all to be the same way landscape. I did have a question on the check register. Page 103, there's the first third of a page, there's names or places, and they're all zeros, and then there's a V after that.
Those are voided checks.
Oh, those are voided checks?
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I had, thank you.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? There was over $1 million in bills we just paid. Just so you know. His eyes got pretty wide. Okay, approval of the agenda, any additions or deletions?
I don't have any additions.
Move the agenda.
I'll support.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comment?
Greetings, Council. Carl Richards, 390 Lennox. Two quick items. For Council's appreciation, regarding the headlines in last Thursday's newspaper, something's happening, okay, and I think you'll be interested. Other than that, I'm not at liberty to say. And
But it's with our favorite landlord?
well, you can read into it, but
Okay,
I choose not to elaborate.
all right, well then,
In view of everything, okay?
anything else?
Also, big praises for our DPW again, okay? You may not know it, but right across from Aaron's house, they redid the entryway to the Wells Street parking lot, all in preparation for Pumpkin Fest, and it's a beautiful job, and we all should be very thankful. Okay. Thank you very much.
I thought you couldn't raise that arm.
You have to buy that man a cup of coffee.
I thought you already did.
Hello, state your name and address.
Linda Ross, 373 Harvard, president of the South Lyon Area Historical Society and co-leader of the Village Gardening.
Larry Ledbetter, 11343 Clovis Point, the Historical Commission President.
We are here to say thank you to all of those who helped get our rock finally moved. They estimated it to weigh around 9,000 pounds, so it was a big do. We'd like to thank everybody for making this project a reality for us. Carl Richards was the first to present the idea to us, and that was about 1.5 years ago. And I'd like to thank Larry and Carl, Tom Ross, and Bob Trimatier for their diligence in staying on top of and informed of the progress during this time. We'd like to thank City Hall and Ms. Ladner for their letter of release in the project. A very big thank you to Jason Rose and the crew at Rose Excavating for their expertise and skill in moving the rock to its new home at the Historical Village. And I thank you to Bob Martin and the DPW crew for their assistance in the move. Thank you so much.
And I'm here to comment about the Depot Day. It was a really big success, and it was because of Mr. Martin and his crew. Mary Ann and Jameson and Ron Brock were particularly helpful in getting things ready for us. I'd really like to thank Chief Collins and Chief Kennedy for their support, and a special thank you to Councilman Joe Rizzi. He helped us set up that morning, and we had a great turnout of citizens and a lot of happy kids. There were a lot of people involved. Brian Bach, donated all the helium and the balloons for all the kids. All the kids got free balloons.
Wow.
Kiwanis served hot dogs. They were free, donation only. We started off with a special tribute for 9/11 because it was 9/12, and we recognized the terrible sacrifice of Dennis Rodeman, the firefighter from Lansing who was murdered. And we gave a special tribute to Terry and Dorothy Tennant, and they were really pleased about that. There were antique cars from the spark plugs, classic tractors from Blaine Smith. We had Thomas the Train and Zemo the Magnificent Yo-Yo Man, the Amazing Anjay Magician, Lansing Model Railroad Club. Discount Tent provided a big tent for us, and we needed it because at 2 o'clock the clouds opened up. And we estimate about 600 people turned out, but it's very hard to know. We lost the Bubble Man. He was in the hospital. He had a medical emergency, and I've tried to get an update on his condition, but I haven't gotten any response yet. Kurt Lucas was there with his horseshoeing. We had antique wedding dresses, Viola Prater. We had 2 Girl Scout troops who sold cookies and also did face painting for the kids. Fine Arts Society was there with a project for all the kids, free, everything was free. Garden Club was there showing their wares, and the Bee Man did a wonderful job of teaching the kids about bees. So it was just a really fantastic day. I want to thank the City Council for supporting the village. This was our time to shine, and I think we did a real good job of it. Thank you.
Thank you, and if I can, yes, let's go ahead. I just wanted to say, you thanked everybody, but really 2 very important people didn't get thanked.
Who's that?
You and Linda.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you.
Thank you from the City Council. Really, all that you do it wouldn't happen. And it certainly is wonderful that what you did. Thank you. I had to comment on that. Anybody else, public comment time or presentations?
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to present 3 awards to members of the police department. The Depot Day is going to be a tough act to follow, but I'll do the best I can. What I'm going to be awarding here is 3 certificates of merit. And I'd like to first read the requirements for one to deserve a certificate of merit. And the requirements are outstanding performance of duty under unusual or difficult conditions. The action need not involve exposure to physical danger, but must involve unusual thoroughness, conscientiousness, determination, and initiative. So next I'm going to read a brief summary of how the 3 officers behind me responded to and solved the credit union robbery at the Vibe Credit Union within 12 hours of its occurrence. And then we'll let the audience be the judge as to whether they deserve the awards or not. How's that? So, on August 12, 2015, at 9:04 a.m., Sergeant Doug Bakke, Officer Audra Baker, were dispatched to the Vibe Credit Union to investigate an armed robbery that had just occurred. Both officers responded, ensured the safety of credit union personnel, and preserved the crime scene. Lieutenant Christopher Sovic arrived minutes later and took charge of the investigation. All 3 officers, working as a team, mobilized resources to process the crime scene, gathered information about credit union procedures, obtained video surveillance of the suspect, and quickly disseminated information on the South Lyon Police Department Facebook page about the suspect and the vehicle used in the robbery. At approximately 12:40 p.m., Lieutenant Sovic received a tip from a source that had seen the Facebook post. That tip provided a lead on the suspect and the suspect vehicle. Officer Baker was able to confirm that information through one of her contacts, which resulted in officers locating the suspect vehicle. Using their training, experience, and investigative skills, officers were able to positively identify the suspect and locate the suspect vehicle within 12 hours of the robbery. In addition, Sergeant Bakke was very instrumental in recovering crucial evidence that the suspect used in the robbery. Lieutenant Sovic provided the FBI and the Oakland County Violent Crime Task Force with the suspect's name and possible locations. The suspect was apprehended 2 days later in the city of Detroit. A large portion of the money taken in the robbery was recovered from the suspect's vehicle. Lieutenant Sovic obtained a full confession from the suspect, who is currently lodged in the Oakland County Jail awaiting trial. So, deserving? Yes. First award is for Officer Audra Baker. Next is Sergeant Doug Bakke. Pictures are encouraged.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Lieutenant Chris Sovic. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
All right. A little closer, folks. Was there a flash? Not really. One more, real quick. All right, thank you. And thank you. Audrey, you've had some success in the past, too. Yeah, a little bit. Thank you. You all have, but she knows what I'm talking about. Okay, we thank you again for what you've done for us, and certainly the professionalism is obvious. We appreciate your efforts. We move on to old business, which we do not have any, and then we go to new business. Consider demolition bids for 390 Lafayette Street.
Okay, after developing language for the possible rehab and renovation and updating and tweaking the language for the demolition RFP, the city posted and notified the public that it was seeking bids for the property at 390 Lafayette. We did not receive any proposals by the bid deadline for the rehab renovation of the existing structure, but did receive 3 bids for the demolition. One from Blue Star out of Warren for a bid of $73,900 with a possible deduction of $16,000 for a substitution of clean fill dirt to fill the area for the removed foundation. One from Milford Salvage and Iron Metal Company with a bid of $38,575 and a low bidder of R.J. Hoffman Management at $34,780.
I guess you stirred a question in my mind on the, you said a removal of foundation. I mean, what as far as, like Hoffman, if they're number one, what, did that entail something like that?
The bid itself does require removing the foundation, filling it with rock, and as opposed to just clean fill dirt so that it doesn't settle again. The Blue Star wants to just put in clean fill dirt. The reason we had bid it with putting in rock was so that whoever does build on it again doesn't have the foundation settling problems that the current building had.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Aaron.
Last meeting I asked, and I asked the meeting before for the information from Carmine on what we were able to do with that building.
You should have gotten that with your packet for the special meeting on September 9th. You should have gotten a memo from him related to that, and it should have been included with this packet as well.
Yeah, I received
No,
that.
it wasn't in this
No,
one.
I
It was
didn't.
in the last one.
It was in the
Wasn't
last
the
one.
last
Wasn't in
one.
this
Not
one?
this one.
I know
I didn't see
it
it
went
in
out with the September 9th packet.
I
Yep.
didn't see it with the September 9th packet.
Yes, it was. Or at least I got mine too.
I got mine.
Well, I didn't get mine. I guess I'm the one asking for it, so, yeah, all right.
I do
appreciate that.
apologize.
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
No, I think this is good. This is definitely a right step. I mean, something we've talked about for several meetings now. Looking back at it, I think it was a good idea to try and at least open it up for the rehab. I didn't really wasn't very optimistic that we were going to have anything come in for the rehab, but at least we're doing our due diligence and our homework and making sure all angles are covered, and it kind of just confirmed what I thought, and that no bids would come in for that. So I think I'm very comfortable with what you've obtained. I've looked through all the work, the quotations. It seems very thorough. Everything that we've requested seems like it's in this quotation, so I'm happy. And in fact, I'd just like to make the motion to accept the bid from R.J. Hoffman Management in the amount of $34,780 for the demolition of the existing structure at 390 Lafayette, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract and the city manager to issue the notice to proceed to the contractor.
Okay, we need a second.
I'll support that.
Further discussion? Harvey? Oh, I'm sorry.
He was first.
Okay, I saw you.
Do we have, I mean, I want to make sure if we knock it down, we have plans, or at least discuss plans on what we're going to do with the property until hopefully we get some idea if it could be, when it's going to be sold or anything like that.
What'd your memo say?
No, I'm not talking about I'm talking about just
Right
what's it
now.
going to look like right now. I mean, when it's done, we're going to have rocks there, I understand that. But are we going to do something to make sure that it actually, is it going to be rocks on the whole property? Or is it going to be just-
Actually, rocks underneath, and then they have to put clean fill over and reseed the property.
Oh, they're going to reseed it?
So
Okay,
it
so
has
that's
to be-
part of this bid?
Yeah, that's part of this bid.
Okay, I just didn't want to have an empty lot,
Well, then the hopes for until the future, maybe that somebody does purchase it with a project, that we can at least have like picnic tables there, a couple of them or something. We got a couple food places nearby, they can walk over and.
Right.
And we're gonna still maintain the little parking area that's still there.
Right,
We're not tearing that out, so.
My concern was I just wanted to make sure that was going to look okay once it was ripped down and just not an empty barren.
Well, it's gonna look fabulous when you enter town and you can see a new entrance to our town.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we didn't have to pay anything out of pocket over and above the bid. So,
Right.
Okay,
Right.
okay. Go ahead.
Now, Ted.
Okay, Harvey.
Thank you. I need to disclose, as I did at our last meeting, that I know Mr. Hoffman. He's a county commissioner and was a county commissioner when I worked for the Board of Commissioners, but knowing him doesn't preclude my ability to vote on the issue.
I agree.
Thank you.
I agree. I don't see an issue at all.
I got something.
Go ahead, Glenn.
This is a reasonable bid. It was kind of an expectation that this would ultimately be the outcome of this. I do have to say, I'm still disappointed that we're so impatient to act on this. The idea of having just a month for someone to have an opportunity, and it was if they had seen our first meeting where everyone was clamoring to have this thing down by the next Thursday, it would have been difficult for anybody to get too animated about trying to put something together. When we kind of settled down and actually looked at it a little bit more calmly and decided that we would give people an opportunity to put something together. Clearly, when you have a demo, everything is before you. It's easy to assess what the costs for your company is going to be able to perform that duty. If you're trying to envision something that's a transitional thing to a redevelopment of a building, obviously you have substantially more due diligence to calculate into what your idea is. It certainly isn't fair to have let it go on forever. I certainly understand that, but I just wish we could have given it a reasonable amount of time for someone to have made an assessment on this. That argument's a little bit difficult to make though when no one came forward to inquire about anything. So I'll just have to kind of accept where we're going and hope like crazy that this can be packaged with some other properties and get a more comprehensive redevelopment going quicker. So.
Yep. That was the plan of the master plan as far as the new proposed change, that would be the starting point for a big change in that corner area. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They have 45 calendar days to complete the project,
Once we issue the notice to proceed.
once we issue the notice, right. How long would that take?
With me being out of town most of this week, it'll probably be first of next week when we get, because we have to have you sign the contract and them sign the contract and then issue the notice to proceed.
Okay,
So it'll be early next week.
so 52 days.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Has RJ given any indication of when they would be able to get in here? And I know they weren't awarded the business until now, but have they had any of those discussions up front?
No, they haven't.
Okay. All right. Move on to consider purchase of 3 Kaiser Bear blowers.
Thank you, Mayor. In order to discuss blowers at a wastewater treatment plant, we need to just take a minute and totally discuss the concept of how our wastewater plant works. and our wastewater plant was refurbished in 2005. And it seems like it's relatively new, and it is, but when you think about it, that's 10 years that have gone by since May of 2005 till September 2015. The way that plant operates is we capture air. And capturing air is the whole essence of most water and wastewater treatment. We do it both at the water plant. We catch atmospheric air, push it through as oxygen, and we oxidize the iron that's in the drinking water. And that's how we remove iron so the residents in our town don't get yellow water. At the wastewater plant, we catch atmospheric oxygen, push it through a blower under pressure into a big oxidation aeration basin, and that's what keeps our colonies of microscopic bugs really healthy so we can clean water. And that's why we have not an Impala of a plant, but a Maserati of a plant. That's what I
Think domestic.
all right? So with that
Yes, stay
said,
domestic.
these plants run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have 4 of them, and at any given time, 2 are operational, and we have 4, and we rotate them. Well, we've had some issues over the years, and the brand that we had in plant when the plant was built in 2005 is Kaiser blowers. If you remember, about a year and a half ago, I came to the council with a discussion about the Kaiser blowers. And what we decided at that time is, let's do our due diligence, take a look at what we have, and possibly what is out on the market for a long-term fix going forward. And that's what my guys and myself have done over the last year and a half. We've had numerous companies in, Roots, it's a big builder of blowers, a company called Curb Pump, as well as Kaiser blowers that we've had in. There's lots of good blowers out there. We could go out and purchase a Roots or a Kerr manufactured pump, which would service the city wonderfully, but we, after taking a look at it, we realized how much money this was going to cost the city going forward. A single pump is $47,000, but that doesn't even include the changing of the footprint, the repiping of stainless steel pipe, and physical changes to the building. So for one individual pump, we very well could have spent $80,000 to $100,000. With that said, we brought Kaiser blower back in. And over the years, my guys who have gotten so good at what they do have made suggestions to the company. And they went back and they redesigned some of their equipment, with some of their equipment now having mechanical seals, different types of bearings, and different types of fins on the blowers. And we now feel that that product has much improved, and we feel that if we stick with Kaiser going forward, it would service the city at a very affordable cost for the long-term range outlook. So with that said, we went in, had discussions with Kaiser blower, and they offered us not only new pumps that we could have purchased at quite a bit more money, but the existing ones we have that have been re-engineered and redesigned, and they gave us a very good price that we can buy individual blowers for $11,000. I budgeted for this, and we can purchase up to 4. Well, I have one that's down right now. If I replace that one, all 4 would be working, but I think it would be to our wise investment here to purchase 2 more. We would have on the shelf, if you will, or in inventory. So any problems we have going forward, the city has them in inventory, purchased, paid for, and ready to operate. So my suggestion is that we exercise this opportunity to purchase 3 Kaiser blowers at the price of $11,020 a piece. At a price for 3 would be $33,000, $33,062, and I budgeted for it's in the current budget, so the money's there. questions.
I think you've got it nailed.
Yeah,
We're lucky that we can do this in an affordable range like that.
I agree. Took a lot of work.
But I would
and
say because of you guys, what effort you put in.
Got some wonderful guys in that department that don't get enough attention. When you get up and turn your water on,
Yeah.
faucet comes on in the wastewater plant, you never hear, we have a big DEQ inspection tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We are ready, we are loaded and locked for this. My guys are, and they work extremely hard at this. I think we have a question.
So are we just replacing the internal components of the existing, or we're getting, because it says pump only, so that's the whole unit?
Correct. What it is there's two parts to each blower, Mike. 125 horsepower motor, and then this big blower, slightly smaller than this desk. It's the blower only that we're replacing. The motor's fine.
Okay. No, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
this is great when you look
I
at
know
the
it
other
is.
prices of the other quotes.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
I know it's a lot of money, but we budgeted for it, and I put even more than this in because going forward back in January, we weren't sure where we were gonna be at this point, so.
Okay, you can rebate us then?
What's that?
We get a rebate?
It goes back into the
This is a
fund.
rebate, guys.
I did want to make one comment, that when this discussion initially was presented, if you remember, Kaiser recognized that they had some failings
Oh, yeah.
with their existing pumps. That's where the discussion of should we take a look at some outside.
Absolutely, and we
So,
did.
yeah.
We had a half a dozen companies in, and let me tell you, 4 or 5 of them wouldn't even bid the job because they knew the city wasn't gonna bite at it because of the price of an individual pump with the changes of the footprint, the repiping, and in some cases, the physical changes to that building was gonna cost us well over $100,000 per pump. We can do all 4 here in the long term for $33,000. We're trying to do the right thing going forward.
Well, them being so willing to make the modifications that were specific to our needs, I mean, I think that goes a long ways towards us being even more
We've had a lot of
satisfied with
discussions.
this than price, you know, so.
Few days, I just want to say, I wasn't real proud of the way I handled myself in a few days.
Got the deal.
You were assertive.
We're buying
I
3,
know.
Yes.
but we have that pricing up to 4,
Yeah,
and that's still going to be in the same budget year, isn't it?
correct. So we could do another one later in the budget year if we got the money, guys.
Okay. All right.
If we do that, I'll bring it to the council before I pull the trigger on that.
Okay.
Well, I'll make the motion then that we approve the purchase of 3 Kaiser Bear blowers from Professional Pump Inc. in the amount of $33,062.25.
I'll support.
Further discussion? Okay,
Thank you.
all in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Number 3, Mike, I'm gonna let you talk, well, you brought this up
I did.
last meeting, so, consider reimbursing Fire Chief Kennedy for travel and lodging costs
Yeah,
to attend. Go ahead.
I brought this up at the last meeting because I was reading one of our weekly reports from our city manager, and in the report, and the chief did not bring this up at all. He didn't mention anything like this. I actually called him up and said, what are you doing? So bottom line is, our chief was at a seminar, or conference, I'm sorry, thank you, in Atlanta. He was a presenter at the conference. He was representing the city of South Lyon. Our chief paid for the conference and his airfare and hotel of his own personal funds, since he was representing the city of South Lyon, and he was a presenter at the conference. I thought that it would be in our best interest to reimburse him the costs of what he paid. And again, the chief did not bring this up. He told me, don't worry about it, but I was insistent, so I told him I'd bring it to the council for consideration.
Certainly, first thought that I had as well, I mean, we don't need our, especially department heads, pulling out of their own pocket to be able to represent the city, so.
So do we have to make a motion on this, or?
If I can make a comment, I appreciate it. Again, this was not my intent at all.
Oh, I know.
My concern, I just don't want this to seem disingenuous to my own staff, because I had let them know, again, this was something I was doing on my own. So I appreciate if it comes up in the future, you have my promise, and I apologize to Manager Ladner. Again, this is something I never crossed my mind would be covered by the city. So I really didn't let her know until, hey, I'm going, it's on my own dime. Never even went to her for it. So, and also to my own staff. So I appreciate it. I would respectfully ask that you pass on this. And again, you have my word that if something comes up in the future, I'll bring it for consideration. But I greatly appreciate it, though.
I think you deserve some kind of stipend for doing this.
Yeah, I'm not going to pass.
Yeah, that's part of the job.
No, we understand what you're saying, and again, I know you didn't want me to bring this up, but you were representing the city, and I'm sorry I brought it up, so.
It's not as though you do this on a regular routine basis to, spend this kind of money, so.
Now, if it was to Vegas or something, we'd have a different discussion.
Well, I was thinking the International Fire Convention. I was thinking, was it in Paris or something?
No, I'm okay with this, and in fact, Mike, if you want to go ahead and make the motion since you brought it up.
Sure.
I gladly second.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we reimburse Chief Kennedy for his travel and lodging costs associated with the International Fire Chiefs Conference, where he represented the city of South Lyon. Was it last month?
It's August.
In August of this year.
Second.
Okay, further discussion?
Next time, make sure the international convention is in Windsor.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we appreciate you, where you were coming from, but no. No. That wasn't just over to Ann Arbor and back. Okay, we can move on to number 4. Oh boy, this has been a hot topic in town. Discussion regarding putting in place and enforcing aggressive begging, panhandling ordinance. I think what really ground our constituents and area people was the fact that 11-mile corner, downtown corner, bypass corner, 9-mile corner. I don't know, were they out at 8 Mile too? I don't know.
Reynolds Suite.
Well, that's what I meant, the bypass
Yeah,
Reynolds
sorry.
Suite. So, and they hitting all, they were low, they must have been 20 guys in town at a time at some point or another, and they did it for like 5 days at least. And they don't have any kind of uniform. They just have cut-out milk cartons with a picture on it, and nobody could really understand where they were, who they were representing, or where they come from. And they admitted they weren't local. And then I understand the so-called permit they had from the state was ran out of time on July 30th or something like that. It became obsolete at that point, and they were out there again during Labor Day week. And the legality terms to all this, Tim, what can we do to control this a little bit? Because it really tempers the ability of our other local organizations who do theirs at certain times of the year, once a year. This group came back, this was their second round from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And how do you control something like this? The other thing is the concern, our people are hitting somebody, running over somebody. They're in the crosswalk. They jump in, or just the different things, the liability part of it. Who's liable on that?
Well, this gets into the First Amendment, and there's been some recent federal opinions, and there's a more recent, so these are the charitable solicitations are First Amendment protected speech, and there's been some opinions that have reinforced that concept. So this gets into the solicitation, whether it's for charitable or other purposes or for merchandise and retail purposes. You have more protection on the non-commercial charitable solicitation issue. So you're going to want to be content neutral. You got to apply the same regulations to everyone.
you really want to avoid a permitting process where they have to have a permit before they can engage in the activity. And what that raises questions of prior restraint, meaning that you're infringing on their rights before they're allowed to engage in them. And that becomes problematic under a First Amendment analysis. So, and I've talked to Chief Collins at some point in the past about this. So it is going to apply to everybody. So maybe the first thing that jumps out is I think you can probably try to address the location of the activity if it's excluded from the right-of-way. One of the questions that I had raised is if you push it to the sidewalk and they still want to stay at the sidewalk at a corner, they're going to be coming to the passenger side, stepping into the right-of-way to potentially accept a donation that way. That becomes a question, how do you enforce in that circumstance? Do you make that a violation of your ordinance? Those would have to be worked out if that's how council wishes to do this, or if we want to explore different options. Going back to the permitting issue, it may be really that you want to simply require a registration to let the police department and the city hall know that these groups are going to be in town. That maybe you require that they have some sort of identification. I don't think you want to, this is council's prerogative, obviously, but it may be problematic if you get into the type of receptacle that they're putting money in, what they wear. Those types of things may be problematic for you, but we certainly could explore what council's interested in trying to regulate. It should apply to everybody across the board, and you're going to want to keep that in mind, obviously.
Well, again, they weren't even wearing safety things, colors or anything. I mean, the one I watched, the guy had a pile of clothes between the sidewalk and the road at 9 Mile Corner. And I literally saw him go over there, strip off one shirt, and dig down in through there, dig out another one, shake it out, and put it on, and went back. It was a hot day, I know, but I mean, it just looks so hokey, that pile of clothes sitting there like that.
Well, I'll tell you, I was on the 9 Mile Corner driving, and my window was down, and two of them got in an argument, and I could hear the argument because I was sitting there waiting for the light, and my window was down. And I think they get commission.
Oh, I mean,
for
that
what's
doesn't
in the
really
bucket, and that just
play a role with what we're
no,
deciding.
no, it doesn't. But it just the way the fight was, like who gets to go to what car when, and who gets to cross this way and that way, and he crossed on the other person's crosswalk time, and I was like, oh boy.
Hey,
Go ahead, Glenn.
well, this is my own 2 cents worth. One of the complications is whatever we end up employing for the outsiders will end up being reflected in the way that we have to perform with the locals that everybody would like to have the opportunity to collect donations for whatever the causes are. The First Amendment the Supreme Court has really bent, spindled, and mutilated the historic perspective of what First Amendment rights are as far as free speech. And some of them, in my view at least, are rather destructive. They may well be able to articulate a rationale that's legitimate, but it's very difficult for me to swallow that that's what the intentions had been initially. But what I want to say is that I think that we're much better off simply taking no role in what's going on and encouraging our locals to make sure that everyone is aware of the dates that they would like to select to do their thing there, so that we might be able to help manipulate the circumstance that they're able to do that. But as soon as we start to, and there was an awful lot of traffic on Facebook in particular about this, of people being disturbed by that. I can certainly understand, but my suggestion is to simply not donate to them. If there's no revenue stream to be generated in our backyard, they will quickly go away and go on about their business to find some other community to take their activity to. So we'll be able to reward the locals that are helping the events and the charities that we're accustomed to, and they'll end up looking for someplace else to burden those people with traffic. I've never been comfortable with the notion of people going out into the street and the safety hazard that creates. It just seems to be part and parcel of maybe just the history of the way those donations have been collected in the past. I would love to find some way that accomplished the same goal without having to put people's safety in jeopardy, but I personally don't understand how you get there, so. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Glenn. And meanwhile, if you recall, during Memorial Day, they were clashing with our VFW guys.
Yeah.
And
That
they
was
were
the first
fighting over who could be there.
Right. That was the first, when they initially started here. That's why I'm suggesting if we could end up, manipulating the circumstances so that our guys have first dibs kind of a thing, but.
Yes, Mike?
Tim, registration. Can we legally have groups register, and if so, how much time in advance can we go out? Meaning if they wanted to do Labor Day weekend. Can we, two reasons behind this. Number one, it'd be kind of nice to know, maybe publicity, at least to let people know, hey, we're gonna have, I don't know, some group coming out this weekend, they're gonna be collecting money for such and such. Just to give advance notice so we don't have situations where people are trying to, they're stopped at a light and somebody's coming up to them asking for some type of donation, number one. Number two, can we force them to wear identification in some form to let us know what group, religious organization, whatever they're representing? So that you have an idea, if we don't go with the registration route, at least we know what they're representing. I mean, there's some charities I have no problem donating to because I know who they are. But the group that was on here this past or over Labor Day, was it Labor Day?
Well, it was a week before they started on
Right.
Tuesday
I had
or Wednesday.
no
or
idea
something.
who they were, and I felt uncomfortable even asking because there was nothing on them really identifying what group or organization they were representing. So as a city, can we enact something to at least where they're wearing some type of identification so at least we know what group they're representing?
I don't have a good answer for you on either. It would have to, this is the devil in the details. Generally, my understanding is that the registration may be acceptable. The identification, my experience has been that some of these groups actually embrace that because it helps their legitimacy.
Right.
If you are able to identify which group they're with, it makes their job easier. So I would say that those are certainly, I think, reasonable areas to investigate. I would have to bring something back, and I'd like to look at the law to make sure that any specific regulation that we would be looking at meets the constitutional scrutiny.
Okay.
So I don't have a good answer for you.
No, that's
on
fine.
that.
It's just something I was curious about, something to look into.
And as to the timing in advance, you're not going to want to get too far out.
No, I agree.
Probably even 24 hours would be acceptable, but to help avoid that confusion, you would certainly encourage your local groups or any group to give as much advance notice to City Hall and the police department so that they could be advised, well, just so you know, somebody is already registered to engage in this activity in these areas on this weekend or these dates. And that would help at least give information to potentially avoid that problem. That may be one way to do it. I'm not sure that you want to get into trying to control how many groups can be at particular locations at any particular time. That may be, not only is it an enforcement problem, it's a difficult regulation to craft and create in a way that's going to meet the constitutional scrutiny.
Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm one of those people that stand on the corner of walk and don't walk for a couple of days each spring and collect money for the American Legion. That's an important fundraiser for our organization. The poppy sales are what we fundamentally use to provide assistance to our veterans in a number of ways. But I don't see it regulating it as reasonable. And I agree with Glenn. The proper way to do it is just say no. It's an educational piece. And there's plenty of ways to do educational pieces. There's, Facebook alone provides half the population here with the activities that are going on in the city. So I would be more in favor of a hands-off approach and let the economics of the situation police itself. Thank you.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts. First question would be for our city attorney, Mr. Wilhelm. Now, the organizations, regardless of the organization or whoever comes out, let's say they don't have the authorization from the Attorney General as a solicitor's permit. Can anybody stand on the street and solicit funds? Could I ask for the Joe Rizzi Retirement Fund and stand out in the middle of the road? Okay.
Yes. And just, we do have,
I'm not going to do that, by the way, but just
if you recall, it was, I believe it was 2014, we were advised by the ACLU that our old begging ordinance was similar to the one that had been declared invalid in a Sixth Circuit federal opinion. We adjusted that and we incorporated some language that regulates what's basically termed aggressive begging. The Sixth Circuit case involving, I think the name is Speet, involved begging on the street. And that was deemed to be First Amendment activity. And many communities in this area have adjusted their ordinances to accommodate that legal ruling.
Okay. Now, my next comment is, I certainly respect what Harvey's saying and appreciate it. I've spoken to another organization, not the American Legion, but I want to do my homework on this, and I asked them, I said, well, they actually brought up to me and said they saw these people, and I said, well, so happened to be that we're going to be talking about this at City Council. And I said, well, how do you feel about this if the city was to put in place some sort of an ordinance or some permission or whatever process? And they were actually for it, because they said that they don't mind working with the city, giving a heads up, getting the permission, and being recognized, because they felt like the people that were coming in were not, it was almost, I don't want to say shady, but almost, they weren't really sure about them. So they felt like other people weren't necessarily playing by the rules. When they come in, they're identified, very clearly marked. So the feedback I received was that they had no issue with playing by the rules and just asking for a simple form. Now, I think one of the things also was the issue was that the people who came, they weren't very well identified. I think if there was some education before, our city is very generous and are, thankful to our residents that I think if they identified themselves before, there may have been some hesitation to donate. So I just don't want to set a precedent where it gets out that organizations feel, well, South Lyon is an easy target to come in and start begging. So, and personally, I'd like to see at least some options explored for, how we can control this. Thank you.
Okay.
I had one more thing.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Well, some of the suggested language that's in here, have you read this, Lloyd? Some of the suggested language?
I've read some of the comparable ordinances, and many of them are very close to being the same as our existing aggressive begging ordinance.
Okay, to be perfectly honest, I didn't even know that we had a begging ordinance right now, but I was just kind of curious, touching or causing physical contact with another person or their property without the person's consent. There's a number of things that are sort of parallel to that. Following somebody and chronically asking them for a donation kind of a thing. Aren't there other existing laws that are outside of the scope of this that would be applicable to be able to tend to that kind of behavior?
Well, number one, most of those items, if not all of them, are in our existing aggressive begging ordinance.
Okay.
But there are other laws, and when this Second Chance Network called ahead, They did submit paperwork that at the time was valid from the Attorney General's office. All the ones I saw did have the canisters that said Second Chance Network. Now granted, maybe nobody knew what that was, but the canisters at least said that, or the milk cartons, plastic milk jugs, if you will. And all of the ones that I and my officers observed the intersections did have the safety vests on. We met with them every morning, even though we don't have a permitting process. We went out and told them what they were not allowed to do. They were not allowed to impede traffic, aggressively beg, et cetera, et cetera. And then we monitored them throughout the day to ensure compliance with the existing laws, such as impeding traffic. So there are some existing laws that we can use on top of our aggressive begging ordinance to ensure civil behavior.
Right. I mean, we're not looking to necessarily prohibit their being able to do that, but they're within parameters of proper behavior. You know?
And to the best of our knowledge, they were. I mean, I too read some of the rants on Facebook, yet there were no complaints, direct complaints by citizens to the police department alleging specific acts by specific people at specific intersections.
There was more comments like threat of, or a sense of threatening behavior or something. Well,
It's far easier
pretty subjective.
apparently to go home and 3 hours later complain on Facebook than it is to, at the time, simply call 911 and say, I felt threatened at this intersection, can you please investigate it, which we would have done in a heartbeat.
Right.
I drive through the intersections quite a bit in town on my daily work, and the only thing I saw was that one where they were having a disagreement. They did seem to be respectful of getting out of the traffic, and you know, I didn't really see any aggressive behavior with them, except within each other that one time,
But with the First Amendment being as broad as it is, since I could simply walk out there and say, I want money because, and be completely legally within my right to do that, it seems very difficult to be able to conform some kind of language that would assist us. I just don't get it. I don't see how we get there, so.
Well, I guess the question is, then, if we don't go with some type of ordinance restricting this type of use, are we clear that there are other ordinances or anything else we could look at, kind of to jump on what Glenn was saying, in the event that something needs to be done, like they're being overly aggressive or something like that? There's other,
You have an ordinance on
we
it.
have
That's-
that.
I know we do, but I'm just concerned, is it, well, okay,
Someone's got to make the call to the
Yeah,
employer.
right,
That's
right.
all.
So
There's
it
no
has to-
test on enforcement yet.
right. Okay.
And the police department did monitor their behavior every day. Both the uniformed personnel and I went out myself in plain clothes in an unmarked car and sat there with my cell phone videoing their behavior and timing their solicitation with the green lights. And I wasn't able to document an occasion where they delayed traffic when traffic had a green light. They would do their business and run back as quickly as they could.
Professionals. I agree, I mean, I went
Mr.
through
Mayor?
that all the time, so.
Chief Collins, was there any concern, or do you recall how late into the day was there any issue about the hours that they were engaged in the activity?
I don't recall the exact hours, but they pretty much stuck to daylight.
Yeah, they put in 8-10-hour days.
That's awful hard work,
Yeah.
awful hard work.
And that's just gonna lead to them, somebody getting tired and stumbling and this and that, and we're gonna have something happen. It's
Well,
gonna happen.
the question is, do we want Tim to look at this more, or do we not have Tim look at this more?
I think it's worth looking at least. I mean, it comes back to what Glenn said, though. I mean, if there's no way of enforcing it, that's almost a moot point. But if there's something we can put in place, like I said, I just don't want it to get out that South Lyon's a target, and then we, you know, all of a sudden we see beggars every every
Easy
month.
mark.
Easy mark, yeah.
If we do this permit kind of a thing, then you're sort of, you assume some level of liability with what's going on with them, so. You're sanctioning that activity, I guess.
And we do have things in order, it just takes somebody to call. I mean, I had a lot of people call me, asking me who they were. Just, you're on council, do you know who these people are? I had a lot of calls like that while they were in town, but nobody called me to say that they felt uncomfortable, or nobody, everybody called because they had uncomfort in some level, or they wouldn't have called me and asked, but nobody specifically was like afraid of them or felt threatened by them or anything, but they were all concerned enough to make a call.
I would like to know, though, if the conflict between the local groups and the non-local groups were to be contesting for the same location again, how do we resolve something like that? Anyone have a suggestion? Yeah. I don't know,
Like you said, you can't
rock,
tell
paper,
how many
scissors?
people can- you can't stop how many people can be on the corner.
Not sure that's and this is not so much legal, but you have to ask the question, is this the type of issue that you want the city government to get involved in? These are activities of, whether it's individuals or groups trying to solicit donations from people in the city of South Lyon. You can regulate certain aspects of that as long as you meet, within the law. Is that the kind of conflict that you want to get involved in dealing with?
Personally, no, not at all.
To me, that raises questions about how you would go about that. You start to get into, this is your corner, this is your time. That raises a number of questions about whether you want to get into it, and then how you would do it, whether it's constitutional, and then how do you enforce it.
But we already do it in some fashion with like our ball fields, our parks. You have groups that are trying to get field rentals or field time.
Right.
And we do regulate that, but we use it through our different department.
But playing baseball is not a First Amendment activity.
No, but I'm trying to make the analogy. We're already doing it part of the time already in some of our parks, and it's not necessarily issuing them a permit to do it. It's more of just keeping track who's doing it, which is like, just notifying the city, something just as general as that, notifying the city in some type of fashion, in a time frame. Hey, we're going to be here this weekend, as opposed to just having them show up and be at a corner where we have no idea they're going to be there.
Well, clearly you have a safety issue, a public safety and a traffic safety issue if you have people competing for intersection space. That would raise a number of that's an interest that the city has, and there may be avenues and options to deal with that particular issue. And I don't have any options off the top of my head. But
No, I understand, but it's more like just so you don't have that issue.
But there's language in some of these rulings that have been addressed in courts where that whole scheduling thing and getting permission and all that stuff really complicates things to no end. And they're not even specific about, it's pretty much sort of the pornography thing. You'll know it when you see it kind of a thing. We won't give you what the timing needs to be, but we know that there's a time component that you can't break.
It's more not
really weird,
right? But it's not seeking permission from us. It's just kind of so everybody knows. It's like you have one depository or whatever saying this group's going to be here this weekend. We just wanted to let you know. So that you don't have situations where you have two groups clashing on the same weekend. You can kind of keep track, not necessarily in a permit type of thing or forcing you to register or seeking permission. It's just to give us, and the police chief, some indication, okay, look, there's already going to be a group here this weekend. Not to say you can't do it, more to just say, look, we're just giving you notice that we've already had interest in this weekend from this group. So that we have an idea, and the police chief has an idea, so we won't, we at least give the other group notice that, look, somebody else is going to be here, so you don't have a clash. Two groups competing on the same weekend.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
To comment on Councilman Kramer's line of reasoning, many, if not all, of the local groups in the past have called the police department. They started out by asking permission, which I flatly always refuse, because I don't want part of the liability for them standing in the street. But I do thank them for notifying us. So I don't think it would be a problem for the locals to advise the police department that they're going to be out there. Second Chance Network also requested permission, which I also flatly refused. But I told them unless they violated some other law, we couldn't stop them. We did have notification on the dates that they wanted to be here. If I knew far enough in advance that that would be in conflict with a local group, I would advise them of such, because the bottom line for everybody soliciting is dollars and cents. So if I advise an outside group that, well, legally you can be there if you so choose on that day, however, be advised that a very favorable local group is already going to be there, they may then, because of the economics, decide either to not come or to come a different day.
So it's more like a notice rather than any permission or requirement that you have to do it, or restriction on who can do it on what weekend.
Well, I think it's more along the lines of facilitating information between private entities. You're really not even regulating.
Right. I mean, it takes us out of that whole First Amendment argument. It's just a notification, just a courtesy notification, I guess.
Yeah, and local groups that want to come in and say, we want to let you know we're going to be here, here, and here on these days, is more than we may or may not be able to require under the law, but they do it as a courtesy in their own interest. And, anybody, again, I think Chief Collins is right on. The dollars and cents are going to drive the activity, unless you were to get into a malicious type of, I want to just, get in the middle of your fund drive for some reason, but that doesn't seem to be why these groups operate in this fashion. That's not really what they're interested in.
No, the money should drive that whole conversation. My concern, though, I mean, in the back of my head, I do have a worry about the whole First Amendment groups, that are pushing that argument to end up making headlines, that we're the ones trying to break people's ability to enjoy their First Amendment, because we're too restrictive or something. I'd hate to give them that kind of ammo.
I just am miffed at the thought that the freedom of speech amendment can be twisted to freedom to solicit. I don't know how, that just doesn't make sense to me, but.
Get a milk jug.
Yeah. Get a milk jug. Anything else, guys and gals? All right, move on to discussion consideration regarding allowing the DDA board to meet with HRC to develop plans to present to council for the utilization of federal earmarked funds. Gwen?
After seeking the assistance of Congressman Trott's office regarding relocating the earmark funds to another corridor in the downtown that has not already been updated, we received information that due to changes in federal law prohibiting earmarks, changing the defined location for use of the allocated funds is not possible, as that would take congressional action, which would be considered creating a new earmark, which is not possible. And I included in your packet the email that we received from Congressman Trott's office. With that in mind, the DDA would like to work with HRC, understanding that MDOT requires a engineer stamped drawing for any project work, to come up with plans. We have some idea of things that we would like to do, also possibly work with the veterans on the corner and possibly improving that area and their memorial, different things like that. But as the DDA really doesn't have any funds and the earmark funds are all actually city funds, but they fall within the DDA, we would like permission from the city council for the DDA to coordinate and work with HRC to come up with a plan to present to the council for use of those funds.
The DDA is not paying for any of the engineering. They're not doing anything.
No.
And it's 90,000, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, I just don't understand why you don't handle it. I don't understand why the DDA needs to be involved. I don't understand that.
Well, the DDA would just like to have input into it.
Well, anybody can have input. I don't know why we have to allow them to have input. I don't get this item. I mean, it's right away. They can't do anything to the veterans corner. That the corner is out of the right of way.
And it's been improved already.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
this just doesn't, I mean, if they want to have anybody can have a discussion, anybody can call you with ideas. I just don't understand why I just see it falling under your job, and, I mean, it's already been designated to where it can go. It's already been designated as what it can be.
Can any of this conceptualization be charged off against the earmark ultimately?
Ultimately, yes, engineering fees can be paid for as part of the earmark, yes.
And that would be the whole earmark.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, if anybody wants to brainstorm, they're more than welcome to brainstorm. I don't need to know why we as a council need to allow them to brainstorm. And then you have to take into consideration, it's 90,000 that you can use between Liberty and McCaddy in the right of way only, and engineering in a right of way of anything will eat up $90,000. I mean, so who's going to pay
They
for
should do the project. Pay
Yeah.
for the project.
Yeah,
Plus
who's
there's-
gonna pay for the project? We're
plus
just gonna
there's a
give
match.
HRC $90,000 and say, thank
Maybe
you.
next.
Well, it's either that or we don't use the earmark money.
I just don't understand. I mean, this just makes no sense at all. I mean, I don't know why you can't just talk to HRC and say, we have this money, are you gonna charge us $90,000 to put in a crosswalk?
We can't do a crosswalk, that's not in the right of way.
Crosswalk's in the right of way, it's sidewalk to sidewalk is right of way. Curb is included in the right of way. You step off the curb, you're in a crosswalk. That is considered part of the earmark.
Do we even have the earmark?
Not according to what MDOT gave me as specifications.
Are they saying right of way is curb to curb? Because right of way is usually sidewalk to sidewalk.
89.9.
They were saying behind the curb area on either side of the street.
Yeah, behind the curb area.
Not in the street. Not including the crosswalks.
Right of way is in the street.
I understand that, but the specification of the language that I read in the MDOT Title 23
Yeah, this safety grant is,
for the safety
Or limited.
limits and does not allow for crosswalks.
Well,
Murphy went through this too. I mean, it's like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean,
yeah. But I mean, just to hand over 90,000 to HRC to do some kind of an engineering project on something nobody can afford to, that just seems, I mean, you should be able, as the city manager, just talk to HRC and see if they have anything after, you know, in the DDA, you're on the DDA. I mean, can't you just brainstorm about this on the?
We have, and we have ideas, but we have,
Why do we need permission for you guys to have ideas?
we don't, we have ideas, we need permission to spend money with HRC.
No. No, I mean, that is the earmark. There's no, you're not gonna be able to, you have to be able to do something if you're gonna spend money instead of just spending the money to spend the money. That makes no sense. I mean, HRC's not gonna do it for 10,000.
Well, but isn't the issue, what can we do with it?
You
I
can
mean-
spend it on engineering.
Well, no, you could spend it on engineering, but the issue is what can we spend it on in that limited area?
Right.
Right, and that's the
Technology
issue. We
next.
can't do crosswalks apparently, so what can we actually spend that money on? Or is it just
But that's
money we
something-
can't spend?
But
Period.
that's something our city manager should
Right,
just
we
be
don't
able
need
to
an
do.
expert
We
to
don't need an
take-
expert to tell us that.
to pay
No, but we need an
HRC.
expert to draw up the drawings, which is what the DDA and I have ideas, but we need HRC to draw up the drawings to submit to MDOT.
Okay, Harvey, would like to
All right,
insert something.
this is such a small amount of money, and it's such a small area, and we've been through this before, if you and the DDA and HRC can't come to some idea of something that would fit and is logical and makes sense to us, like, it's still taxpayers' money, give it back. We don't need to spend it. We'll do something else. And it's just, you're just trying to fit something, shoehorn something into somewhere, whether it fits or not, just to spend the money, send it back.
Bridge to nowhere, yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Joe.
Yeah.
We do have the, oh, I'm
Oh.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it. Yeah, this reminds me of when you go to the, probably a horrible analogy, but you go and you spend and you say, well, I saved 50%. Well, how much did you spend? You still spent 50%. So I don't want to throw good money at bad money to try and get something that's going nowhere. So thanks. And actually, that was a good point, bridge to nowhere. So.
Well, it's a little bit different though, only in that this money is national money, federal money. So, I mean, we're a donator state, we're a donator city. It certainly doesn't justify squandering whatever wealth, but it would be nice for us to be rewarded at some point. I was wondering, is this 390? Is any of your conceptions to address anything at 390? I mean, could this certainly that would fall into this area with the money.
It could address sidewalk type and right-of-way things, but it couldn't address the demolition.
Well, I mean, there's water issues and things down there. I'm kind of wondering if there's some way to, once the building's gone, to amend the sidewalk so it's not underwater typically when the whole area goes underwater though when there's a storm. I guess that's unrealistic. So.
Well, the county even admitted that there's a crook in the drain and the retainer tank is not near big enough where it's at. They're admitting it, but they don't have the money to fix it.
Maybe we could get a plaque by just telling the feds, take your money and use it on something good.
Just point of audience sake, we're talking about money that's been floating for 13 years now.
Yes.
From another project, Second Street project, and somehow it got okayed that we could use it where we're talking now.
But the engineering would be above what my spending authority is, which is why I brought it to the council.
Even ideas, you can't just chit-chat?
No, I can chit-chat with them, but to have them draw plans would be above my spending authority.
But you have to understand, if your little chit-chat is not feasible within that 90,000 with engineering and the project, there's no reason to have the chit-chat.
I understand that, Aaron.
Exactly.
Good.
I agree. Yeah.
All right.
Let's move on.
Okay, anything else, folks? I guess your DDA board, you may just still want to bang it around a little bit and see what you could do. I don't know. Still approach if you think you've got something. Okay, manager's report.
As long as it has. I mean, if it's going to hang in the ether forever, when there is some redevelopment, maybe something would be.
It's just an entire night dedicated to.
Okay, manager's report.
A report on the dumpster by CSX. Tom Lyon and I are continuing to work on that. We attempted to contact the railroad through their direct number, through email, through cell phone and office number for the rail master. He has not returned any contact information. We have been in contact with Waste Management. There is some concern with Waste Management as they don't have any recollection of or records of dropping the dumpster there, and so they don't know who to charge for it. We are in the process and have told them that they need to remove it, and we don't care who they charge for it. And if they don't do so by the end of this week, we will begin charging them a civil infraction for illegal dumping in the city, and so hopefully that will all be resolved by the end of this week.
Have you called MDOT?
We have not called MDOT yet
Because they held the public hearing for the railroad to do their work.
Yes.
You might want to call MDOT. And I'm embarrassed to tell you that there is a waste management project manager that lives in the city who is now working on it on their own time. That seems like our city manager should have been able to do something before we have a project manager from waste management on their own time trying to work on it because it smells and it's an embarrassment to the city.
Tom and I have been working on this for 3 weeks.
And it's gone nowhere.
Aaron,
Not
Yeah,
for lack
come on.
of trying and not for
I
lack of
mean,
effort.
that's embarrassing when a project manager contacts me.
your tone is embarrassing.
Oh, you've never had an embarrassing tone. That's right. I'm sorry, Mike. I apologize for my embarrassing tone, but it smells.
I agree.
And I've been getting a lot of calls about how bad it smells when people are out there on the rail trail trying to enjoy the nature of
Well,
South
rather
Lyon.
than criticize the city manager, why don't you just call her up during the week and say, Lynn, can you try this or this person?
I guess I'm disappointed because I had to actually bring it to her attention 3 weeks ago. I mean, you should have known that it was there and overflowing. It was overflowing for weeks and weeks and weeks before I even brought it to your attention.
Well, that's part of our job, is to bring things to the city manager's attention, isn't it? Or are we just supposed to sit around and just,
I think she should have been able to notice a giant dumpster smelling all by herself.
okay.
All right, anything else in your report?
Yes, I wanted to point out, in case nobody had noticed, the difference in the financials. BSNA has been in for a week. They're in for their second week of training. We are in the conversion process of that. Also, the Chamber and the DDA are seeking committee members to help with Cool Yule this year, as the Chamber has chosen not to move forward with doing it, and most of the committee members from the past have other commitments this year, so we are seeking new committee members. We've had a few volunteers, but anyone that's interested in helping can contact either myself or Andrea Meyer at the Chamber. Pumpkin Fest, as everyone knows, is in 11 days and will be a very big and exciting event for the city. And the mayor and I will be leaving tomorrow to go to the MML conference in Traverse City, and I will be available by phone and email as always, and we'll be returning later this week.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to jump right to you, Harvey. You got anything?
Just that I'm sorry I got rained out of going on Depot Day. The time I got there, everybody was taking their tents down.
Oh.
But it's always a good event, and I'm sorry I missed it. And that's all I had today.
And that was the 35th, right? The 35th? Yeah.
Been there as long as I've been around.
Yeah.
My kids always went there. Some of the same vendors are still there.
Yeah. Mike?
I have nothing.
Okay, Bev?
I just think we should thank Chief Collins and Bob Martin for getting the cameras fixed. It saved us some money.
He's the man.
Okay.
I thought
Go ahead.
Depot days were good because there was so much to see and do, and sorry it rained on it.
Me too.
All right, Glenn?
That's it.
Yeah, I missed that myself. We went very early and they were just in the setup stage and there was Boy Scouts and stuff setting things up, and by the time we got back it was raining, so I missed that B guy though. I always enjoyed seeing him. I did contact both of our senators, federal senators, for seeing if they have any sway over the railroad guys, but you know, I'm not expecting.
They're a country within themselves, the railroad.
Exactly, yeah. So, that's unfortunate. But so, and there is progress being made over, I don't know how many people are kind of keeping their eyes on what's going on over at Knowles, but there's some significant changes taking place. I mean, a lot of land balancing, the topography has changed substantially since it was just a bunch of trees over there. So hopefully before long they'll have some real stuff to start making some progress on. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Aaron?
I'm good, thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, I'll start with CSX. When we were having the issues by Peters True Value, and then also 9 Mile, because I was driving right by it. I know it's in Lyon Township, but I literally just Googled CSX and I found an organizational chart, and I found the director of program management, and I spoke to him, and he may have been on some of our earlier emails, so I'll forward you that contact information. That just made me one more avenue to pursue. Not sure if it'll help, but it's worth checking out. I'll send that to you tomorrow, Lynn. Also, regarding the bridge walk for the Labor Day, South Lyon Recreation did an excellent job sponsoring that bridge walk. South Lyon Senior in Rehabilitation, Ted, did I say that correctly? South Lyon Senior in Rehabilitation. They were pushed on the whole 2.5-mile lap for the whole time, and it was just really nice seeing them finish, people cheering them on at the end, and it was a great event sponsored by South Lyon Rec. Also wanted to comment on the new rock in McCaddy Park. I think it looks great. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, South Lyon Historical Society. And also, two other things I was really stood out to me was both from our fire and police. I'm just happy to see at the police that you have the new landscaping in, taking pride in outside. I think that looks great. And all the volunteers that helped out, Scott Black, all the other people that came out, I thought that was terrific, all the work they did. And then with the fire, Chief Kennedy, I was also impressed by the 5K run. These firefighters, they ran 5K with full uniform on.
Jeez.
Packs and everything, and they even were holding an American flag. This was on September 12th, was it? And it was for the Brighton, it was a Brighton firefighters 5K memorial run, and it was just seeing that. It was totally awesome. So, and then on that same note, I'm not sure if you guys saw in Paul Baker Park, but there were hundreds of flags in Paul Baker Park that commemorate 9/11 and remember the fallen firefighters that passed. So all around, just hats off to both of our police chiefs. So our chiefs, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I wanted to, I'll run through this quickly. The Solera run, the bridge walk, Labor Day run was certainly fun, and it reminds you quickly how out of shape you are if you're not in shape for something like that. And it was wonderful to watch those people in the wheelchairs come on that final lap, and pretty exciting. I don't know about the people that had to push them, but they made it too. So, and I expressed disappointment that the Cool Yule was not going to be carried on by our chamber, the South Lyon Area Chamber. And the reason given was that other areas, the townships and so forth, that they also cover, didn't feel they should be involved with a city project like that in downtown. And I pointed out back to the chamber how quickly they forget that Cool Yule represents it's for the children, and we're an 85 square mile school district. We're all involved in that. And that was a pretty lame excuse as far as I'm concerned for the South Lyon Chamber. And not only that, they had a donation come in, and that's when they realized, whoa, wait a minute, we're not going to be doing that. And they asked that person, should we send that back to you or just shred it for you? I mean, that was terrible. It was from a person that's donated every time for this, and it was really sad how that was handled. And then, again, as mentioned, Pumpkin Fest is coming up a week from this weekend, and we all know how that brings out the community. They've resorted things around. The dogs have been moved over to the, now by near Normie's place there in the corner in that area, and so it's more downtown area. They moved a few things around. And then the thing I was mentioning in the minutes, I couldn't think of it, was about the dance groups, and I see our parade directors in the audience. And he assured us last time that he would work with the dance groups to move them along a little better so we didn't have a half a mile gap. And they do a great job, and they want to entertain, but they got to do it on the run somehow. And I want to congratulate St. Joseph's Parish for celebrating their 50th Jubilee over the weekend. And their goal was a fundraiser was to, they're going to put in church bells in your neighborhood. But we've already heard, they've already played what it will sound like in church, and as far as they aren't loud and glare. They're musical, and yeah, they'll be. And so, car show is on September 23rd, a week from this Wednesday. It's hard. Sometimes you think it's the last Wednesday of the month, but it's the fourth Wednesday of the month they do it. That's this Wednesday. I mean, correction, next Wednesday, the same week as Pumpkin Fest will be starting up. All right, I don't want to confuse people on that. And and I also am disappointed not to see the South Lyon Herald here. They seem to always have things to say in the paper, but when you can't be here to represent and hear what was actually said, I find that difficult to deal with. And with that, I would call for an adjournment.
I have a question.
Okay.
Beverly, the other night we talked about the fire hydrants in Colonial Acres, and I wish that I would like to see if the council would address that. There's been a problem. It's occurred over a number of years, and they haven't been able to fix it, and some of the some of the fire hydrants don't work properly. And could you address it, please?
Jim,
I would
we're
love to
working on
address
that. We're
Okay,
gonna bring it
Bob.
up in another month.
Yeah, it is being worked on as far as...
Worked on, everybody's doing something to help us, so.
I don't want it to get out that you think some fire hydrants do not work, sir. Every fire hydrant works.
Yes.
I don't know why you think one doesn't.
But if you had some, we understand where your concerns are coming from, but in retrospect, it really is being worked on heavily right now between the city manager and the lawyers and the engineers, and Bev just alluded to that it is being worked on. But it's always good to be able to express a concern, but usually at the beginning of the meeting is where the public can speak on that. But I appreciate your thoughts on it. Okay, I'd like to call for an adjournment.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Okay. Anybody want to second that? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That ends our meeting of approximately 1 hour and 1 hour and 32 minutes.